Hey friends, good morning. Welcome back to Uncommon Roots Homestead. This is Ashley, and today we're over at the land early. My in-laws are in town this weekend, so they are watching the kids, which is my favorite on a Saturday morning, which means Kevin and I got to come do the chores all by ourselves, which, let me just tell you, if there is anything that makes me more excited than I already am to live here, it's when Kevin and I can come out and do the chores by ourselves on a Saturday morning. We made coffee and we drove over. It was the most beautiful sunrise. I did not get any footage of it, but it was gorgeous. You'll have to take my word for it. We just milked, and now I want to take a walk through the garden. So we are kind of past the point of garden tours. I kind of stopped, I guess maybe a month ago. Not because there wasn't anything happening in the garden, because there is, but it just felt like there wasn't much changing in the garden. So instead of doing traditional tours towards the end of the season, I decided to just kind of walk you around here and there and let you see what's going on. Today I want to do that a little bit more formally. I guess we'll call this a garden tour, but I want to think of it as like a lazy Saturday morning with a cup of coffee. I'm gonna just show you what's going on. That's the stuff I picked for the pigs yesterday. This okra is huge. You wanna come with me to walk around the garden?
You bet I do.
I'm gonna bring my coffee. So, one of the unexpected, very exciting things about September 2021 has been all of the dahlias that I planted, gosh, back in April, that we planted as tubers together. They ended up being so overcrowded by everything I put them with. We had tomatoes and everything, and like most of them didn't grow other than the big bed in the back. My dahlias like spread out throughout the garden really didn't do anything. Well, when we pulled all of the other plants, they started growing like kind of randomly, and we're about to get blooms. Let me show you. Look at that. And look at this little guy. He just popped up in the last couple of days. He's not going to be big enough to give us flowers. I'm really excited to see what some of these varieties even look like, because I mean, we planted them. Some of them I started from seed, some were like random tubers that I ended up with. So like, I have no idea what that one's gonna look like, but I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm really excited in the next couple of weeks as we start getting into our frost. I'm gonna be digging up all of the tubers and seeing what we're working with and splitting them up and storing them for next year. So very excited for all the dahlias. I was just saying to Kevin, I need to thin these carrots. So this is one of the fall beds that we planted just a couple weeks ago, and it has absolutely taken off. So these are radishes, and then I've got the carrots. That's all kale. And then I've got all of these sweet peas that are climbing. They're looking great. Now this fall bed, it looks like all I'm growing are some more weeds, which, you know, are my favorite. I had one chard come up. Oh no, that's a beet. One beet. And that's it. I don't know what happened to this bed. The peas are looking okay on the trellis, and there's a couple of carrots, but for the most part, nothing. There's another dahlia. I'm gonna get a bloom off of that pretty soon. The weeds this year have just been ridiculous, but look at this lettuce bed. I told you guys that like early spring and fall beds are my favorite because they can be so tightly sown. And this is a great example of that. I had that butter crunch lettuce that we sewed really tightly to do like young leaf lettuce. So it's gonna be like cut and come again. And then I have the Merlot heads here. And then I did those mustard greens that you guys gave me a ton of great ideas on how to cook. So I am going to be harvesting some of those. Some of you said to dehydrate them and use them as a seasoning. That's a great idea. So I'm at the point where those are about ready to be harvested because I sewed them really close together, right? So I don't want to let them get huge. So I'm going to be harvesting those probably sometime this weekend. Maybe not today because I kind of just want to walk around the garden. Also, this asparagus, like, yes, we still need to weed it. It is still wild, but like, look at this. Do you see this? We're gonna have so much asparagus and it is just doing so good. There's just one patch in the middle where it didn't grow. I might fill it in next year, like that section. There's probably what, 4 feet here? Like that there's like 4 feet here that just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't work. But everything else looks great, so I'll probably just fill in that gap next year with some new asparagus and call her a day. We're gonna have a lot of asparagus. Okay, this plant deserves the award in 2021. We have gotten more eggplant off of this one. This plant came from one seed. Yesterday, I harvested 15 eggplants off of this one plant, and look how many are still here. Like, there's a ton. It's just loaded. So I've decided that I think that eggplant just really likes its space. In the past, I've always planted eggplant with like a bunch of other things, and I've never given it, I mean, this eggplant pretty much has this whole bed. There's one tiny pepper plant in here, and then a couple of herbs that are like ground cover. So this eggplant is really like star of the show, and it's just exploded. So note to self, if you're growing eggplant, try giving it more space because I've never had this much success with eggplant before. This herb bed is still my favorite part of the garden. It's just so alive. Also, look at this mint growing down here in the ground. When they say mint spreads, this is what they mean. This is not in the bed. That is not where it's supposed to be. That is where it's supposed to be. Guys, this is mint. Oh my gosh. Oh, also look at this artichoke. He is happy. No artichokes this year, but next year. Also, look at how this holy basil exploded. My poor lavender down here. Sorry, guy. Okay, so I may have made a mistake letting that mint live in the herb bed because this is mint. What are you doing?
Getting some peppers.
These plants look so happy.
I got a bunch.
Nice.
Look at all them colors.
And a piece of mint that we're afraid to throw back in the garden.
Tastes good though.
Does taste good. So what do you think? Good pepper year?
Decent. I mentioned in the last video that I did not plant the right amount of everything. Like, we only planted one cayenne pepper, which is what we use most of. So, and we've got like a ton of like poblanos, which we use, but not that much. Yeah. So successful, but I need to like plan better next year.
Yeah.
And just plant more of what we actually use and what's the most versatile. So like cayennes, you can use it in a bunch of different ways. So that, I'm really bummed that we only had one plant. I don't even know how that happened, but somehow it did. So success, but I would just redo it a little bit next year.
Yeah. I feel like that's I feel like it's still successful. It's our first year growing in this space, so
yeah,
it's like
we're learning it.
Yeah. What what do we really expect? Now, the biggest failure, I think, is look at these rows.
Look at these what?
Rows.
I know, I don't even know how that happened.
It's just like we're growing weeds. We've just cultivated weeds.
I basically just have to redo it.
Yeah. Not ideal. Actually, I said that the eggplant was the MVP earlier, but I think I have to take that title back and give it to the tromboncinos, because there's so many of them. And they're still producing. These ones are all young. It's just crazy. It's a lot of food off one plant, one seed. It's just mind-blowing. There's so many things that I love and also don't love about every single season. Like, I love fall and early fall, especially like right now, because it's crisp. It's in the 50s this morning. It's just calm and beautiful, but the garden is still growing. It's not dead yet. But also it's like the time in the garden where there's so much dying and rotting and just needing to be taken care of. Like, we've got to do some cleaning, and we really have to like start the next phase of the garden, which is preparation for rest. We can't just leave it like this. We have to prepare it for the next season. And we have to do things like get our garlic and onions in the ground, which I am late. I did all of that talking about how I planted early last year and loved it, and I was going to do it again, and here I am like a week after I planted last year, and it doesn't look like it's ready, does it? So it is what it is. There's always something. I think for our first year growing in this space, that this garden has been a success. And I walked out here yesterday and was grabbing some stuff we were going to use for dinner last night, and I was just thinking, man, this is everything I ever have dreamt of having, and I love this space. Like, I genuinely love this garden space, and it's the perfect size for us. Like, we've talked about it a little bit, but we don't really plan to expand it next year. We're gonna, I guess technically we're gonna make the footprint a little bit larger by going out a few rows, but really we're not growing any more next year than we grew this year. We're just gonna spread some things out. So like where we had our squash and melons and it just was like an overwhelming nightmare, next year we're gonna spread that out, but I don't think we need more food than this. This was a really manageable amount for us as a family. We put enough food away that we're not going to be buying any tomato products. We're not going to be buying any pepper products like going into next year. No squash. Like, I mean, we really did replace a lot of what we would buy at the grocery store with this garden. And that was our goal. And we were also able to give away so much food and to share so much of like the excess that we had here, and we're not even done. Like, there's still so much food in this garden, and it'll continue to produce food. I mean, the lettuce and the kale and like those things aren't stopping. So for me, it feels like this garden was a success, and I think this garden is going to be perfect. But now we head into the next season, which is cleaning this garden, and that's never fun. I planted a whole pack of spinach here, and I don't see one plant. None. And I guess that those seeds had gone bad. But there is a dahlia that's coming to life. Also, I would be amiss to not show you this ginger. This ginger and lavender has really been wonderful. I mean, look at those beautiful blooms. Lavender looks great. Let me show you what we're working with down here. Look at that. That looks wonderful. Got multiple. It just looks great over here. I can honestly say I never thought that like ginger would be something that I would be so excited about growing and harvesting, and like I'm so proud of this ginger. I mean, this started with just one little nub of ginger from the grocery store, like an organic ginger cluster, I guess, and then I separated it, I soaked it, and then I planted it in the soil in December in my house, and it took months to germinate. In fact, I thought nothing was gonna happen. I didn't think it was gonna grow. And then it started growing, and then I put it in the ground in May, and look at it now. I mean, I've at least got 10 times what I originally purchased. So definitely would do it again. It's been so low maintenance. I mean, we haven't had to do anything other than the amount of time that it took to start growing. We haven't had to do anything with this. What is that?
Beans.
Look at those beans.
They're from that disaster area.
Nice. You giving them to the pigs?
I was gonna, yeah.
Yeah. They're a little overgrown, that's why. We're not, and for me, I don't feel like it's wasting when we give food to the pigs. We're just feeding our bacon.
Someone.
We're feeding our bacon. Look at this. Passion vine going strong. I still need to find something that like we want to do with all of the passion fruit. A couple of you recommended, like there's a couple of tools you can use to actually like juice them. I gotta like find a good solution because it's loaded and also it's spreading. I've got a couple babies. Like, look at this little guy. What's he doing? This is the catnip over here, but there's two little passion vines in there. Another one back there. I'm actually kind of thinking, I wonder if we had talked about like raising up over here on the trellis. I did buy some jasmine. A bunch of you guys recommended in the comments of the video that I was asking about the trellis, recommended jasmine. So I went ahead and bought some, but it's like super tiny. So it would not survive our winter here yet. So I'm gonna keep it inside. I'm gonna keep potting it up, get it a little bit bigger, and then I'll plant it next year. And then the rose started blooming. So I don't know, like we're just gonna keep trying everything over here. I'm thinking about maybe building up a little raised bed here because I think that there's so many roots in this soil. It was really hard to like dig down. So I'm thinking about doing like a little bit of added soil and then maybe moving those like passion fruit starts over here, and maybe I'll just like try everything and whatever sticks gets to stay. It's not like the best gardening approach, but it's an approach. Also, those of you who told me that September is a great month for roses, you were not lying. Like, look at how happy these roses look. I still don't think there's enough sun. I still am leaning towards moving these. The only issue is that two of these are climbing roses. Two of them are climbing roses, which wouldn't be an issue if they actually climbed the vine they were supposed to climb, or the trellis they were supposed to climb. But if I move them, I don't really have a great place to let them climb. So I have to figure that out. But ultimately, I mean, I want these all to live. And see, I've got this little guy here. And he looks really good right now, but he didn't all season. And like, it's shady. I'm standing in the shade right now. He probably gets like 6 or 7 hours of sun, but not nearly as much as the rest of the garden here. So to be determined. Friends, thank you for joining me today. It's nice just to spend a little bit of time together in the garden on a Saturday morning without the kids. I can't wait until this is what we do every Saturday. We'll be here before we know it. You always have a place here in my garden. Until next time.